All right, Mary. So what's up? How can I help? Please, no talking about animals. Let's move on.
Okay. We're talking about people now. So
Good.
A couple of weeks ago, my 15-year-old daughter just seemed like I was the only one still awake. Everybody was asleep, and she came in the kitchen and started crying and was, just saying that she was overwhelmed with school and all her sports and everything, and just not kind of uncharacteristic of her to be like that. But she does have sports every day, and school's a heavy load now that they're all back in person. And we kind of talked a little bit about that and got through that. And I just said, hey, is there anything else that's going on with you? And she goes, yeah, there's some things I need to talk to you about. And I was like, well, let's go sit down on the couch.
Hey, hold on. You knew it was coming, didn't you?
I think I did, yeah.
You did. You super. I know it's coming, and I wasn't even there. Okay, so hold on. Just for every parent of a young kid, you're about to get the reverse talk, which is it's a worse nightmare than the original talk. And is your heart racing? Like, put everybody in your head, in your body, when this was going on.
I think I expected this conversation at some point, but not near this soon.
And how old again is she?
So I am kind of like freaking out a little bit, but I was like, okay, we were standing in the kitchen. So I'm like, we're going to go sit down. Everybody else is asleep. We can have a good talk right now. And completely dark in the house, sitting in the den with my 15-year-old daughter.
15?
15.
Okay.
And just to prep everybody for what's about to come is that she's been dating this boy who we really love for probably about 9 months. And she proceeded to tell me that they have had sexual intercourse. And I maybe wasn't expecting that part. Maybe I was expecting just, hey, we've done some things. And I'm so glad that she feels open enough to even talk to me about it, right?
Yeah. Hey, before we go further, I just want to pause there. That tells me that you've got a great relationship with your daughter. So high five to you. That's a big deal. I think we can all. It's a mirage. It's a myth. It's a fantasy to think that our kids are going to get through any middle school, high school, college without challenges. And the greatest gift you can give your kid is the gift of trust that when they find themselves over their head or underwater, they'll reach out to you. So good for you. That's awesome. That's years and years of you being a trustworthy person that she came to you. So that's great.
Well, and like I said, I just feel so fortunate that is the case because, I don't think I would have ever had the guts to talk to my mom about that when I was her age, for sure.
I've got 2 kids, and me and my mom still don't talk about that. So, yeah, that's kind of a generational thing. Yeah, actually, we do talk about it way too much in my family, but anyway. Okay, so you're I'm trying to set the stage of what almost a Lifetime movie. So it goes from reaching out in the kitchen to an in-the-dark conversation, and walk me through what she's telling you here.
So she tells me that, and she said, I feel like, she goes, I think we need to talk about birth control. And I said, well, yeah, that does come along with sexual intercourse. And I said, but let's kind of backtrack a little bit because, I want to make sure that you feel safe with this person. And then I also want to make sure that you're not being pressured into doing something that you're not ready for. And she was like, no, I don't feel pressured at all. And then that really just kind of sends off alarm bells because I'm like, I kind of wanted her to feel pressured, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that she seemed fine with it. I think more than anything, because she said to me later, she goes, I'm just worried you're going to think less of me.
What was your response to that?
I said, honey, I would never think less of you. I said, I think more of you because you've come to me to talk about it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And really we just kind of talked through and I've had this talk with her before, just because even before the boyfriend, my parents never had open conversations with me about sex. And so I was like, I'm going to be different with my kids. And I said to her, when she started high school, is that, you may become interested in boys, and they're definitely interested in girls. And we kind of talked about all the things that can happen, and I don't want you to ever feel pressured. And also talked about what a big deal sex is emotionally, and how it really takes some maturity. And she, asked me a lot of questions about when was the first time I did.
Were you honest with her?
I was totally honest with her.
Awesome.
But I had just graduated from high school, and I was probably still pretty immature at the time. But so I guess that's why I never dreamed I'd be having the conversation with her this early.
Yeah. So how can I help you?
So moving forward, I mean, the main thing that I made clear to her is that, and I didn't say this directly to her, but what I was thinking in my head is that...
You just said that. Here's what you just said. I made this super clear to her. I didn't really say it, but you know what I mean. This is my head.
Well, I know how that sounds, but in my head, I'm thinking to myself, you can always... I just said to her, I said, if you ever feel like this isn't working, or that you don't want to be doing this anymore, you don't have to do that. You can step back, and if this boy isn't into that, then he can hit the road. And she was like, Mom, I know that. And she goes, and I just want you to know that my boyfriend has been so respectful of me, and has never pressured me. And, of course they think they're in love with each other, as we all do with our first boyfriend or girlfriend. And I'm just so worried about her heart being broken even more. I just know for me, once you put sex into the equation, it changes everything.
So, Mary, I know you know this, but your 15-year-old's a child.
Yes.
And
I mean, she doesn't even have a freaking license to drive a car.
And that's where I was going to go. As a society, we've all put our heads together and said, you know what? 15-year-olds are too young to even drive.
Yeah.
15-year-olds are too young to buy cigarettes. They're too young to buy beer. They're too young to buy guns. Like, we've put these restrictions on children because they make decisions based on connection. They make decisions on what feels good right now. They make decisions that aren't thought out or wise. And that's why they desperately need parents. And this puts you in an incredibly awkward position because the whole thing is predicated on trust, right?
Right.
And we often back trust up to, you promise you won't tell, and you promise that it's two things. One, you promise you won't tell, and you promise you'll stand by with whatever it is I'm doing. And anything beyond that is perceived as a violation of trust. And what I would say to you as a parent, and to any parent dealing with this, is to go one step beneath this conversation and look at your child reaching out saying, will you please help me? Will you please protect me from myself? And that is a level of trust that is not going to be at the forefront of a 15-year-old brain, which is why she's got a mom. And it's going to feel yucky in the moment, but the thing she desperately needs is her mom to step up and be mom. Not best friend, not older sister, not will make good choices. 15-year-olds can't make good choices because they're 15. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you. So I just need your advice on the best way to direct that, aside from forbidding them to see each other. as you said, I want to maintain that level of trust with her. And the reality is that both of them are going to be driving in a few months. And if they continue to date, then,
So I'm going to tell you something crazy. All right.
Okay.
And this fits in. I've had this conversation with atheist, secular researchers. I've had this with super Jesus freak counselors and pastors and everyone in between. 15-year-olds too young to be having sex. 16, 17-year-olds too young to be having sex.
Yeah.
They can create a human. They can. I'm not going to go through the risks. We all know that stuff. We're all grown-ups
Right.
here. The risks are immeasurable, and we don't let them take this type of risk with anything else. And so what trust is going to look like now, what parenting is going to look like now, is going to feel like a violation to a 15-year-old. And it's going to be something that comes along down the road when your kid circles back and says, I'm so thankful that, fill in the blank, that you cared enough about me. And it will be hard, and it will be tears, and it will be you promised, and I can't believe you, I hate you. It'll be all that stuff. And there's seasons when that's what parents have to take.
Yeah.
But I have not met the mental health professional, secular, faith-based, atheist, lunatic, and we all know lunatic mental health practitioners. I haven't met the one that's like, yeah, 15-year-olds, that's great. That's cool. Just make good choices. I haven't met them because they're children. They can't make those kind of choices. And so if my 16-year-old kids are in that same boat, they're not driving. I'm taking them places. The same way as if I knew they were sneaking alcohol or they were doing drugs or they were fill in the blank, any other risky behavior that a 15-year-old or 16-year-old or 17-year-old doesn't have the brain capacity to deal with. And you and I both know what adult sex, how much that complicates stuff. It's complicated in marriage, much less,
Totally.
You know what I mean? Trying to figure out what your body's doing.
Yeah.
And so all I have to say is you've heard me say before, not by your hand, but in your lap, your baby girl so gracefully came and dropped us in your lap. And I want you to hear it both as an honoring of their parenting up until now and a deep cry for help.
Okay.
And it's going to be so hard. There's not an easy way out. I'd recommend calling his parents. He's too young to be having sex. He's 15.
Yeah.
And bringing everybody in on it, and your daughter will go bananas. You know what I mean? Have you talked to him about it?
Yeah. I have not. And, but I do know the parents. We're getting to know them better.
You're about to get to know them real well.
Well, yeah.
And here's the thing. You don't hate your kids. 15-year-old sex is awesome. 15-year-olds, they're being 15. You know what I mean? So they're not bad or broken. They're 15. And then suddenly they found themselves over their heads.
Yeah.
And that's why they need us to step in.
No, and I do think, it's, if I bring his parents in, it's really going to only help strengthen that. They're a great family, strong ties with their kids. From what I know of them, they're great parents, and just good people.
Yeah.
And so, I know it's not like if I go to them and to their son to talk about it, that they're not going to, brush me off and say, pound sand. I don't know.
And here's the thing. Even if they did, even if you knew that was coming, who cares? You can only control you, right? And so if they're going to tell you that you're an idiot, I can't believe you're calling us, they're just kids, let them have fun, that's your decision. And then it's your daughter to protect. It's awesome that they might potentially partner with you on this. Yeah. The big thing here is to make sure your kids don't feel dirty or gross or that they're somehow evil. You know what I mean? And they may internalize that and feel that great. And here's the other thing. If they want to have sex, they'll figure out a place to do it. That's true, right? They can get pretty creative. Your job isn't to, I don't know. you don't create a police state. At the same time, I'm going to do what I can in my power to make sure my kids are safe.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure they're safe. And 15-year-olds having sex are not safe for 100 different reasons.
Yeah.
And so does this surprise you that I'm saying this? Or did you know this was coming
No.
and you wanted me to say something else?
I mean, really, you were just the reinforcing voice that I needed to hear. And I think part of the issue is that things are really crazy in the state that I live in, as you may be aware. For example, if I take my daughter to the pediatrician, I can only come into the room with her permission.
That's right.
At 13 is when that starts.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, she could have just gone to our pediatrician and never told me anything. And so, I think about that, and I just hearing what you said, it reinforces what our family's values are. Not only that, but also where I need to take it from here. And so, I want to be supportive of her and know that she knows that we love her no matter what, but at the same time that our job as parents is to keep her safe.
Yeah. That's a line that I use in my house since my kids were born, in anticipation of this very conversation someday. And multiple other ones, but my job is to keep you safe, to do the best I can. And I can't keep you safe forever. Two things that I hear a lot from parents in this situation. One, like you mentioned, I was sexually active as a teenager too. And either A, it was awesome and it was fine, nothing happened, or B, I was pressured to do stuff I wasn't comfortable with, and I don't want to talk to my kids about that. And so either way, your shame, your bad experience, or your guilt that it was kind of awesome, and here we are it's a different planet with cell phones and everyone's got cameras. The whole thing is at another level. Same as, like, I've heard back smoking weed in the 70s was one thing. Smoking weed now with this high power, it's just different. Things are different. And understanding that we're on a different planet. And I tell you what, if I'd had a cell phone with a camera as a 15-year-old, I would be forever unemployable forever. You know what I mean? It would be a whole different, I can't even wrap my head around that. That's number one. Number two, you're right. You live in a state where middle schoolers can go in and leave their parents out of medical decisions. That doesn't mean you stop parenting or throw your hands up. And you do keep that relationship. And if your daughter wants to move off the grid in that way, and your state supports that, there's all kinds of other conversations y'all need to have about where you live and what your values are. Most of the time, kids default to that connected relationship. And they will kick and scream against accountability, but deep down they go, oh, thank God I'm safe. I'm still wired in here. And that's why it's so important not to shame your kid for wanting to be physically active with somebody. Their kid, of course they do. It's awesome. And that's why they need parents that are going to love them, walk alongside them, and say, I'm putting up boundaries because you're 15. And if your daughter goes and gets birth control from a doctor and sneaks it behind your back and you never find out about it, there's not a whole lot you can do about that until you do find out about it. And again, I'm not suggesting a police state. I am suggesting a heightened level of awareness and a heightened level of parental involvement and making sure every parent's on the same page. And I'm not going to leave my kid alone in my house. I'm not going to go out of town and let them stay at my house. I'm going to be more present, a lot more present, all under the guise of I'm going to keep my kids safe. I love you too much to let you get over your head or underwater are the same thing, right? It's a tough road to hoe you got for you, but you have built up so many years of relational connection there. And the play is now 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road that you loved your daughter enough to step in and say, hey, it's my job to help you stay safe. And it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody, but I love you too much to just say, all right, make good choices. She's lucky to have you. Mary.